Genial. Hello, guys. Welcome to another episode of one-on-one interviews. I have to say that about this episode, I'm super excited because in the last 7 days, I managed to arrange 2 interviews with 2 amazing strength and conditioning coaches in Spain. As you know, last week, for you, a couple of weeks ago, I made an interview with Dani Moreno, strength and conditioning coach of Juventud Badalona. I hope that you enjoy the episode with Dani. I think you were able to learn a lot. And today I'm in Murcia with my friend and also amazing strength and conditioning coach, Jose Manuel Marin. Welcome, Manu.
How are you, Luca?
Good. Thanks for coming. As I said, we are in Murcia and Manu works with UCAM basketball, UCAM Murcia basketball team, who is playing ACB League for the last 9-10 consecutive seasons. And this season is your 22nd season in the first division, right?
That's right.
Manu has been working with the team for the last 4 seasons, and this is basically one thing that we have in common. In 2016, I came to Vitoria, and basically this was my first experience in the first division in Spain, and also yours as the head strength and conditioning coach, because also Manu worked 2 years before that as assistant strength and conditioning coach here in UCAM Murcia. Another thing that we have in common is your current head coach, Sito Alonso. Sito Alonso is really great young basketball coach, Spanish guy, who I had privilege to work with in my first season in Baskonia, season 2016-2017. He was the guy who welcomed me very well. He's the guy who respects a lot part of physical performance, the guy who will always ask for your opinion, and I hope that you have at least the same experience or even better than I had with him, because I really enjoy the work. He's the guy who was always thinking about periodization. He would prepare every microcycle very well to every little detail. He would plan recovery after long and exhausting travels. He would always ask me about my opinion on mental state of individuals and of the team. So I really enjoyed working with him, and I'm very happy for you that you have Sito now as a head coach, and I'm really looking forward to see him tomorrow on the court. It's always fun to see him. So basically these are the 2 facts that we have in common, and I wanted to share it with you. I'm not gonna talk anymore. I'm gonna start asking questions. So I'm gonna now turn fully to Manu. And Manu, let's talk a little bit about you. I would like to hear a little bit more about your background. How did you end up being strength and conditioning coach? How did you end up working with UCAM Murcia? And if you want to share something else with us, please do.
Yeah, first of all, thank you to invite me, because it's something special for me. We meet from my first year, and it's a special relationship, we can say. I start studying my career. I finished the career. After that, I made a master's degree, and after the high performance master, I start to do my practice with the UCAM Murcia, and there I meet the old strength and conditioning coach, Jorge Siscar, and he helped me a lot, and thanks to him I start in basketball, in professional basketball, as assistant coach, like you said. And my 2 first years were great, because you are the assistant guy, you just help, you start to know this kind of professional work with the athletes and everything. And I start to take some responsibilities with the kids, with the development teams, the under 18, under 16, the second team. And I get the opportunity to take the first team, and I said yes. Was something like crazy because I never expect that. And well, when you start in this world, it's like a shock, you know. It's something special, but you have fear, you have nervous, and were very special for me. And well, right now I am with Sito, working like you said. Sito, he's like a great coach, very great coach, and he wants to control everything. He is still being like you said. He wants to know every single details of the players, like mental performance, physical performance, and it's great to take one coach like this because you can work and you can improve your skill as a strength and conditioning coach.
Excellent, excellent. I really like it. I want to talk a little bit about this relationship because it's a pretty unique relationship that you have here between UCAM or UCAM, however you want to call it, UCAM University and the basketball club. There is a really good relationship, especially I think we have to mention two important guys in the system, Pedro Alcaraz and Thomas Freitas, two of your colleagues and really good friends. I would like to, Pedro is one of very influential guys at the University of UCAM, and he's one of the main responsible guys for master program in high performance sports, especially in the part of strength and conditioning. So I would like to hear a little bit what is the connection between the university and the club, because sometimes we know that some clubs are just sponsored but not supported by universities. In your case, there is a really good relationship. I know that these two guys help you a lot, especially in the pre-season, and I would like to hear a little bit more about this connection and how it actually works in practice.
Yeah, like you said, it's something different because sometimes you have the sponsor, but you don't have this kind of teamwork between the sponsor and the team. In our case, we work with them during the season, especially in pre-season, like you said, doing the test, doing some recommendation, helping us. For example, Thomas Freitas is helping us with some kids with develop skills with the young guys. And Pedro Alcaraz, he's one of the most important guys maybe in our world with a lot of papers and investigation. And it's great because we don't have too many guys working in the team, in physiotherapists or strength and conditioning coach. I am alone there. And when you get some help from the university, it's very good because you can do more things and you can receive more advices, you know, from them because they are working in something who is interesting for you, and they said, okay, have you tried this or this recovery with the players? We are investigating about I don't know, for example, the hamstring injuries, and we are doing some protocols with them, the change of direction with Thomas, who is working, and it's a very interesting thing, and for me it's great to work with them.
Excellent, excellent. If I'm not wrong, you are also using Catapult from the university, which is pretty expensive technology, and very often it's very hard to get it from your club owners, president, to negotiate that kind of investment. And you were one of the first teams that was using Catapult technology in your daily work. Is it correct? Yeah.
We start thanks to the university, thanks to Pedro, and we get Catapult like 3 years ago. We are working with this system and it's great. It's more work for us because you have to analyze the accelerometers and everything, but it's great because it's a tool that you can show to the coach, to Sito in this case, and he like a lot of when I saw the statistics and every data, he likes to see everything.
Yeah, that was incredible, because when I came to Baskonia that year, we arranged Catapult for us, and I was beginner with Catapult, not with microtechnology, but it was first time I was with Catapult, and Sito really pushed himself to learn about it, to understand the system. And I remember when Murcia signed Sito last season, we spoke about it, and you told me immediately that he understands player load, and it's very rare that you sign one coach, you start talking right away, and he knows about player load, and this is the high quality and of any head coach, in this case Sito, you know.
When a coach talk the same language that we do with Catapult, for example, the player load or the high sprints or acceleration, it's crazy, because you say, how this guy knows these kind of things. And it's good for us, I think, because to introduce the coach in this part, in this area, can help a lot of the develop of the strength and conditioning part, you know.
Exactly, because he pushes you every day, you know, to stay out of your comfort zone. You always have to deliver your best. You have to always find new things to implement, and these kind of coaches really on a daily basis make you better.
It's true that Catapult is a great system, but you have too many things to analyze, and I don't know how do you do with the team, but sometimes it's crazy. From just one person doing that, you can get crazy, because you try to analyze everything, the change of direction, the jumps, player load, the rate of the player load per minute, and sometimes you have to get just the important part, the things that you think are the most important.
Exactly, the key variables, like you have to decide what is going to be your key variables or key metrics in the system. Is it going to be player load, or you're going to focus on high intensity changes of direction or high intensity accelerations, and some other metrics? 2-3 metrics, I think, are more than enough. Sometimes even 1 or 2 are more than enough, and then if you want to make some kind of individual report about one special player, maybe you can introduce more metrics. But basically, even though Catapult and any other microtechnology offers millions of options, you can also create your own variables. Basically, the key point of this technology is to simplify it as much as possible and use your metrics to program your training sessions with the team.
And it's a problem too that we cannot use during the games, and for me it's something that could be interesting to use during the games, to see how the players work during, for example, that you have sometimes 3 games the same week, how they work this week, how they play during the game, how was the effort comparing with other kind of practice or other kind of games. And could be great if we can get this thing.
Yeah, of course. That was one of the very first debates, and I always talk about it when we started talking about training load monitoring. I always remember when I came to Baskonia, and Julen Castellano, who is also a university professor, but he works in Baskonia as a sports scientist, and he was very familiar with Catapult technology, but in football, which is completely different when it comes to game loads, weekly schedule of practices and trainings and games. It was like completely new for him to be in a EuroLeague environment where we play at least 2, sometimes even 3 games a week. And one of the first discussions that we had was about how to track and monitor everything, because if you leave something out, for example, we focus on training load monitoring, and you leave 2 or 3 games and load in those games out, and you make conclusions about injury prevention or physical performance, it's completely useless. There is a huge error.
Losing important data, because When we were playing the double competition with the Eurocup or Champions League, we have no time to practice. You just travel, you play a game, travel again, come back to your city, recovery, just to do some things, and again you play. And the important part is the game, it's not the practice. And we are measuring all the data about training, about practices, but what happened with the games? We don't know what is happening during the season with some games. Many injuries that we have happen during the games, not during the practice, and we can't control this.
Exactly. I like the point. And the whole idea of workload management and monitoring is that you are able to somehow monitor everything. And in our case, we decided that we're gonna, when it comes to game workload, the only possibility, because there was no option of direct measurement due to regulations of EuroLeague and ACB, we decided to record all of the preseason games, and then we would have player load per minute for each of our players, and then we would use it to estimate the workload in the games. But it was at least something to talk about game workload, because if we leave it out, your system of monitoring load is basically pointless. So you can only use the technology for monitoring and programming trainings, but not weekly loads, controlling acute chronic workload relationship and things like that. So we were trying to find our way, and I think that's the most important thing currently in Europe, that if you're using some kind of micro technology, and in most of the countries it's still forbidden to use it in the domestic competitions or regional competitions, and in EuroLeague and Eurocup is forbidden, and I think it's going to be forbidden for the next couple of seasons at least. We have to find a way to put everything together, both training loads and game loads, and every strength and conditioning coach should find a way how to evaluate, how to quantify game loads if he's quantifying training loads with some kind of micro technology. You mentioned Thomas and Pedro as your guys who really help you, who push you, who come to you with new ideas. I wanted to ask you also, how much is it important for you to be connected and to stay connected with other strength and conditioning coaches? There is a very, very good strength and conditioning society in Spain. I met not only in the first division, but in the second division, and also some guys who are currently not employed as a strength and conditioning coaches, but I met unbelievable people, full of knowledge, people who are really into scientific research. And I wanted to ask you, how much time do you devote to stay in contact with those guys, and what does it mean for you?
For me, it's something essential in our position, because you don't have time to do more studies, to do more things about your knowledge, and it's important to be connected, because you can learn a lot of things, and the experience that you have in your team is not the same that you can get in your team, because you have other kind of games, you have another kind of players, and it's good to be connected and to get a good relationship. In my case, for example, with Thomas and Pedro, we are connected. We talk every week about the team, about the measuring we have to do, like anthropometry, or do some tests, or if we get some injured player. I don't hope, but when we get that things, we are connected. And even with the other coaches from the ACB, for example, even without the ACB, because when you travel, you know a lot of people. You met, like you said, amazing guys, and it's one part of the work that I love, because you are connected with everybody. Last year, one guy came to UCAM to do the master, the performance master, and he was the strength and conditioning coach from a basketball team in Uruguay. And he was with us doing the practice, and I have a great relationship with him. And he gave me some ideas that they are working with the national team in Uruguay, for example, and was good to connect with this kind of guys, to share the knowledge that you have. How do you make the strength sessions, the recovery sessions, and how they work, because sometimes they have like a different schedule. They play more like in USA 3-4 games in a row, and then they have like some days to rest. And it's important to be connected, I think. Even for us with the association that we have done, the strength and conditioning coaches, that's a great idea, and I think it's very important to keep with this kind of connection, because that helps to grow ourselves and even the profession, the strength and conditioning coach, as an important work.
Excellent. Last question in the first part. I always love to ask, because I know that plenty of guys who are watching this will always stop this part, make a screenshot, and then later on go on Amazon to check the price of the books. So my question is about the books. I respect everyone a lot who reads. I like to read. What are your favorite books? First we can talk about favorite books in the field, and then of course we can also mention something that is not field related, if you like to read also those kind of books. Maybe Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter.
No, but just to choose one is difficult.
No, you can say 5, 10, doesn't matter.
The last book I read was an amazing book. One guy who is growing, is very good coach, Lucas Villar, wrote a nice book. I love. When I read, I said, great job, Luca.
Thank you.
I like to Michael Boyle, one of the guys. He's the top. I really opened my mind when I read this book, and even Frank Boss.
Mm-hmm.
For me was like an explosion, because I get a structure of everything, and when I read this book, was like, okay, I have to put everything again in my mind, because I have the clear ideas, and they broke me all the structure that I have. And there is other books like Bill Burgos, he wrote right now another one. I try to buy. I'm gonna buy for sure, because I like the methodological things that they made there in USA. For example, with the NCAA, with the schools and everything. I really like to know how they works.
Bill just published a new book, and it's on sale now, mid-December. So by the time the guys will watch this interview, the book will be available online, and I'm also looking for it. Even though like it looks simple by the name, it's like strength training for basketball. I know that it's definitely not so simple. It's definitely not. I don't expect photos and exercises. I know that there's going to be like great stuff explained inside, because I don't know Bill personally, but I admire his work, and from various sides I heard that he's doing job very, very well.
Great job.
And I always respect a lot people who devote time to write and publish some papers or books or manuals, whatever. So I'm really, really looking forward to order that book. I mean, I hope that there will be enough copies. I think it's published by Human Kinetics, so I don't know, because they always publish 10,000 copies. So yeah, I'm looking forward. Anything else that you would like to add?
No, I want to ask you one question. How was for you to write a book? Because it's something that you always think, like when you read a book, you know, you are thinking, "Ooh, I could wrote a book about my knowledge and everything," but must be very difficult. And when you wrote, I was surprised because it was very nice for me, because sometimes you told me like you have some ideas, some things about to put in a book, and for me it was a very nice job, really nice job.
Thank you. Well, I always like to put something like when I was professor at the University of Zagreb, I would always prepare my presentations with a lot of passion, and they would be really detailed, you know, very well structured. From my point of view, very well structured. You know, I would always look how to start something and how to end and how to connect in the end. And then I also wrote a lot of articles for some basketball magazines and so on. And then I came up with an idea to write one simple book about functional movement preparation, which was like 110 pages with a lot of photos. One really, I would not even call it a book because there is not so much theoretical knowledge inside, only at the beginning of that book, and then later on are just chapters about myofascial release, warm-up, activation and so on, which was more like exercise based rather than theoretical, you know. But that book I wrote at the age of, I don't know, I was 25 more or less, and it was like a first test. Is it like, can I do it or not? And I wrote it together with my colleague from Estonia. And then when I came to Spain, I started to think about it, but by accident, basically, I ended up doing my PhD project. So 2 years I devoted time for PhD project. And then when I finished the project, I thought that maybe I'm gonna finish with my work in Baskonia, because I just signed year by year. And then when I signed my third season, I graduated in Vitoria, and then I said, like, I don't have any personal.
This is the moment.
Yeah, I don't have any personal projects going on, and I knew how to manage my time well during travels, on the flight, in the hotels. You know, when everyone is taking siesta, I was not taking siesta. I was reading and writing, and I already had the structure in my head. I had the structure of these 12 chapters, starting from communication down to recovery. And basically, it was something that eventually would happen. I also didn't expect that it's gonna be that fast, because I didn't expect that I'm gonna stay with Baskonia for more than 1 year. But now it's my fourth season, and basically these interviews are my project for this season. You know, last season it was the book. This season I want to devote myself completely to improving the book also, but interviews. And by the summer 2020, I want to make at least 15 interviews, so we can have it on the channel. And then later on we will see about feedback from other people. If people like it, hopefully I will continue with this project. But I said at least like a full season, devote myself to one project. And this is basically how I work. I really like to commit myself to something and do it well. I don't know yet if these interviews are so good, but I believe they can be good. They can bring value to European community of strength and conditioning coaches. And same thing happened with the book. I wrote it because I think there was the field needed one book like that, because unfortunately we don't have many books about strength and conditioning in basketball. And I think I gained enough experience in 3 years in EuroLeague, and with my previous experiences in basketball from the national team and some other international experiences, I think I gathered enough of experience so I can write in a very practical way. And that was the goal: give some theoretical background with a lot of practical application. and so far people say that it's valuable. The book, it helps them in their daily work, and that's what keeps me motivated to work more, to write more, and to do these kind of things. I mean, I enjoy it. That's the most important thing. So.
Yeah, well, it was nice because if you remember, we were talking like 1 or 2 years ago, and we took a coffee and we were talking about this. Like, there is not too many books with the kind of things, practical things, not just the theoretical things, the periodization, all the things about the strength, the power. No, like real things, the things that we are watching and we are living all days. And for me was very good.
Perfect. Yeah, I like to talk with you, man. And you even asked me a question. I like it when it's like two-way conversation. Then it really doesn't seem like an interview, just like a regular conversation. But I think we are ready for a short break. Guys, I hope that you're having fun as much as I do. Let's take a short break and we will talk with you very, very soon. Hello guys, welcome back to another episode of one-on-one interviews. Today in Murcia with Manu from UCAM Murcia Basketball. I'm having fun, as I said, and I hope that you are enjoying this episode. Now the main part, which I think you always like the most, because we go straight to topics of strength and conditioning. And first topic that I would like to cover is related to your philosophy, your core values, something that is the most important for you when you work with your team, with your players. So basically explain us a little bit your philosophy of strength, of conditioning, recovery, just briefly to get inside of your head.
It's difficult to explain because we are a really physical team, like and for us it's very important this part to be as well as we can physically, because we have to play hard into the court, and it's important that the guys were prepared for it. And in my opinion, the main part of the job that we make is the strength. The strength part for me is essential. It's very important. And the conditioning, we work more during the preseason, and we control more this part during the practice, because all the coaches like to practice and practice and practice and practice, and we have to help to make this practice in some conditioning workout and to be good for us. And for me, the structure that I follow in the strength session is to make some mobility and corrective exercises that we have with the players. Each player have his own planning, his own workout, and I put some specific workout to them about the mobility, some exercises that they have to do to correct some problems, some details. After we have some activation, some core exercises, and the next part is the important part, the main exercises that we have to work in this session. The session depends of the weeks, and even depends of the season, because the last 3 seasons we have double competition, so it's difficult to try to improve the performance in the guys, in the athletes, when you have the game so close. So you have to work with them, but not in the same way that we are doing right now, because you have all week and you can do more things. You can try to improve more some details, some part of the players that in the other case you have no time to make that. the recovery, of course, it's something important for me, more in the previous years, because with the long travel and the crazy travel that we have done, it's important to come back to your city or go to another city and try to recover as soon as possible to be ready for the next game. And well, as you know, for me the strength is something special. Like the main part, and is the part that I really enjoy more with the players, because you have to find some exercises that you can develop all the skills from the basketball players.
Excellent. Let's talk right away about strength, because one of the core principles in strength and conditioning for you is obviously good strength training. Before we discuss exercises and some other things related to strength, let's first talk about testing. How do you approach testing of strength? Do you test strength before you start working with the guys, or you are more like a guy who monitors strength development, and then your workouts become your testing tool where you monitor players? Give us a little bit some knowledge, practical knowledge from testing point of view and strength.
Yeah, we try to test
strength power.
Yeah,
okay.
We try to test the strength power of the players in a pre-season with some tests, like squat test, the power and velocity profile, in vertical, in horizontal. We have done this season, but during the season it's difficult to measure that, to test in every season or to do in every week, because we don't have these tools to make. And if we think about to do with all players, you have like 14 players during the strength session, and you can take time to make with everyone. So we try to take this data from the beginning, from the pre-season, and after you are working with them with his own sensations, with his own feelings, because sometimes you try to put a weight that you think is good and is the weight that you want to work. For example, in a squat, you say, okay, 100 kilos, we are going to do 5 sets of 3 squats, and you think this is like 65% or 70% of the strength of the players, and the guy said, hey, I can do with more weight, I feel good. Can I get with 120 kilos, or can I put less because I feel tired? I feel from yesterday practice a little bit tight and I don't feel very, very good. And I like to control this, to talk with the players too, because it's important to get a communication between the players and you. Sometimes we think that they are like robot, and we just go to the weight room and say, okay, that's your workout today and you have to do this, and you forget that maybe he feel bad, he couldn't sleep the last night, or he feel bad because of personal problems or whatever, and you really get mad when the player are not doing the job that you put on the paper. And it's important to talk with them. I like to go to explain the exercises and ask, how do you feel today? You feel good? Are you prepared to do this? Can you make this exercise? I put a new exercise, and try to help them to get that feeling, to arrive to the weight room and say, okay, what do we have today? I want to see what's the workout today. If you put something like usual exercises, okay, we do a squat, we do bench press, they know that exercises, and they are bored to make when you are 34 years old and you have done during 25 years in your career. You don't want to do again this. And if you put, I don't know, like a new exercise on the paper and you give to them, you say, can you try this exercise? It's new. Maybe it's difficult, but I think you can do it. And it's like, hey, okay, let's see. I want to try. And for me, it's important to get a good relationship in the weight room with the players. It's very, very important.
Excellent. I really like how you stress the importance of social intelligence inside of the weightlifting room and also on the court and also on the plane, wherever you go. On the team, social skills, communication is a starting point, and without sound communication and good social skills, basic empathy, you don't have to be the most empathic person in the world, but to understand and be like have basics of it is super important to build relationship with players, and then from there on to move into exercises and representing your work. Let's move to next topic that I mentioned, exercises. How do you select your exercises? You mentioned now briefly what you are doing, but we have to listeners deserve and need to hear a little bit more about it. How do you select exercises? How often do you change them? Hopefully we will put some videos also of your exercise, because I know that you record a lot of your work and a lot of your workouts with the guys. You're also pretty active on social media with your exercises, so I think the guys, I know that a lot of guys follow you, and probably you will after this, depending on how many people will watch this, but you will probably get more followers, because the content that you share is very, very interesting. I really respect it and I really like it. So tell us a little bit more about exercises selection, and what do you do on a regular basis with your guys?
It's difficult because when you put in front of the computer and you have to create the next strength session, I think in too many things, because I never repeat the same strength session. I have to change something, even if we have done the last week core exercises, okay, we are going to try a new one, and I try to put an order. I create like a mental order, and we start from basic movements, and if the player are able to control these kind of movements, like a squat, like a pull up, deadlift, even the Olympic weight lifts, I like the Olympic lifts, and I try to arrive to this level. And when the player are able to make like for example a squat, okay, let's see how work to do a step up, after this a step up with just single press, and I try to put one more step to get more complication in the exercises, but sometimes it's difficult because you try to evolutionate with the exercises, but maybe it's too much or maybe it's too less, and when you think that something is easy for a basketball player, when you put these kind of exercises they cannot make, so it's difficult. It's one of the part that I spend a lot of time, and it's important to create like this, like a plan in your head, and try to see the next step. If you can do in bipodal squat, okay, next one, single squat, okay, now we are going to put like with another kind of movement, like complex movement with squat and jump. I don't know how to explain because it's very difficult, but I like this to try to get the next step, even for the players. If you are able to do this part, okay, let's go. It's like a pyramid, and you have the basic movements, and you are step by step increasing this kind of movements. For example, for me, the Olympic lift is something that I think is very important in our sport, and I try always to teach to the players how made a basic movement, how to make like a high pull, how to make like a power clean. The snatch is very difficult. We have tried with some players, but not with all. But for example, one variation of this exercise, dumbbell snatch with single arm. It's a easy exercise, and you can get a lot of benefits with this to the players. And you can put a lot of variation of this, like, okay, we do a simple one, we do with lunge, we do this, and we can do after this like just the pull. And it's interesting for me to try to help the player to be in a good level of these exercises.
I like it, and what I can see a little bit, correct me if I'm wrong, me if I'm wrong, but what I can see is that in the foundation you have basic lifts and some simple progressions from Mike Boyle, some bipodal, as you say, or parallel feet work, which Mike Boyle doesn't support very much, but he would say still that it's okay, it's healthy with some athletes. I think with basketball players it can be very valuable, but as soon as possible you should progress to some kind of split feet, rear foot elevated position, or how we call it in Europe, Bulgarian squat, and then single leg work. But then on the other hand, I can also see a high impact of Franz Bosch. So a lot of you have progression from Mike Boyle, then you have also progression on the coordination, from like coordination point of view, and then it's like more Franz Bosch, which is very useful for multi-directional contact sport such as basketball. So as you say, some kind of one-arm dumbbell snatch. If we talk about moderate weights, it's much more useful to do dumbbell snatch from split feet to single leg, one-arm dumbbell snatch with 15-20 kilos, rather than doing split squat with 2 of 10 kilos or 2 of 15 kilos, very explosive. So more or less
it's like this because in my opinion you have to connect everything, and you cannot say, okay, that's my methodological way to work, and I'm going to do like Mike Boyle, for example. Okay, but the other guy has something who is interesting for our sport, the variation of the situation during the game, during the practice. And in basketball you are not always with both feet on the floor. You can landing in a good way. Sometimes you have to control and to be watching the ball during you try to landing. And when you have like the control of everything, it's very easy for the players. If you do like a drop squat, okay, they can control the knees, they can control everything. But when you have to throw a ball during the landing, that's more difficult. And then you see if the knees is doing the correct movement or not. And then you can see if the focus is on the knees, okay, no problem. But when the focus is on the throw, for example, the knee, it's in other way. And for me, it's very interesting to mix these kind of things. For example, like you said, very good is I read this connection between Boyle and Franz Bosch.
One small digression now, when you said about the knee, I realized that we have 3 things in common. I said like we have at least 2 things in common, but now I know that we have 3 things in common. And the third thing, maybe until the end of the interview, I'm gonna come up with 5. But the third thing that we have in common is your current point guard, Rafa Luz, who was with Baskonia in the season 2016-2017. I mean, he's not here by mistake, because Sito, I think, played a big an important role to bring him here, because he had like really good experience with Rafa back then in Baskonia. And unfortunately, even though Rafa worked really well in Baskonia, in one really bad post-contact movement rotation he landed and he broke his ACL. It was, for me, it was actually the first time I experienced live ACL rupture, and I was first of all, I was sad from personal point of view, because Rafa is amazing guy, amazing person. And then from professional perspective, I was also sad because I failed as a strength and conditioning coach in that way, and Rafa managed to get back. He went back to Brazil, and then he signed again in Spain, and I was very, very happy when he signed with Murcia, because I know that I knew right away that he's gonna be working with you, and I know your philosophy from before, and I think it's your work that you're currently doing with him. And I also saw some videos, and I spoke to him. He's very satisfied, and I hope that with your work and with his passion and time that he devotes to his physical shape, he's gonna stay healthy. But that's just like one little digression.
Totally agree, but talking about that, it's something curious that the first injury that you suffer as a strength and conditioning coach with one player, you feel very, very, very bad, very sad, because you said, I have done something wrong, or what happened with this. You feel bad because of the player, because it's something hard from them, and even from yourself, because you are thinking that you are doing something wrong, or you can do better something to try to help that not happen, this kind of injury. But with the time, I learned that
sometimes
it's part of the game, and you can control everything. But when one of your guys landing on the feet or other guy, he can suffer an ankle sprain, and that's gonna happen. You have to fix that and help the player to come back even better. But it's curious, because I get the same feeling when my first player was like a Achilles rupture, and was crazy. Because was Jose Angel Antelo in pre-season, and I remember that my heart stopped. I was very scared, and it's very, very hard, this kind of moments that we suffer.
Yeah, exactly. And imagine how it is for them if we suffer.
Yeah.
You know, now when I imagine like Rafa's situation back then, it was terrible. We stopped practice, and we went home. First we went to the locker room to support him, and then we went home, because there was nothing to do. You know, it was.
Right now, Rafa is bird. He's bird.
He's amazing guy. I'm also looking forward to see him tomorrow. He's awesome. Rafa. Excellent. Let's continue with the topic of strength. Now we know the exercises. We know your philosophy of progression, your work. One last question about the exercises. If you base your work on these progressions that we mentioned, even though you've progressed from your basic lifts, how often would you go back to do basic lifts? Do you, like, even though player does well, for example, squat early in October because he knows your philosophy, or you worked with him before, would you do again squat like every month, or like once a month, 2 times a month? Because maybe even though you want to progress, there are some players who want to go back to the basics. Or what is your opinion on that?
In my opinion, I try to make one at week, one basic movements, because we try to make 3 times workout in the weight room. It's difficult because you cannot make 100% and like very hard workouts. If not, you kill the neuromuscular system of the players. And I try to put one basic movements in the first or the second session that we are going to do in the week. Mm-hmm. In this year, last year, for example, with double competition in the last 3 years, were very difficult because you cannot put like a basic movement with high load that can make to suffer the neuromuscular system to fatigue and to don't be ready from the next game. So this year I am a little bit happier because of this, because we have more time to work on this kind of things. And for me, we have to put the basic movements, is the main movements, and because of this, we have to make and to improve step by step, because always you can put more weight, you can do faster, you can work in power, you can do with high loads, and you can play with different variables to help the player to improve the basic movements. And I try to put one a week.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. That was basically the next question. To explain a little bit more, so just a little bit more information, but in the same way, organization of your work. You said like 2-3 sessions a week, depends if you travel, no, you don't travel, how many games you play, but how do you organize work? How do you progress from one session to another session? Which session is the hardest? Do you lift one day before the game or even on the game day, and so on? Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
It's it's complicated because, for example, with we have one session, the Tuesday session is the main session of everything. We have weights in the morning and the hardest practice of the week in the afternoon, and we have to control this, because if you kill the players in the morning, the coach kills you in the afternoon, and that's something that we have to control. So I try to put Tuesday basic movements of the upper body, and we do some complementary exercises in legs, for example, in the lower body. And then Wednesday I try to put like the main exercises, like okay, we are going to work today a squat, we are going to do clean, we are going to do deadlift. That's the day that we try to work harder with the guys. Next session we have to control, because if the load is very hard, we are controlling during the week, catapult, the RPA and everything, and you have to control this, because if you arrive to the next day, who is Friday, and you have the last session with the players, the last 3 days, you can watch that they are dead. You cannot put another extra work who make worse. Mm-hmm. So you have to control this. For example, in the games, I have some players who want to go to the weight room and do a post-activation before the game. Other players don't like to do anything, and they prefer to arrive to the game with fresh legs. And even after the game, some American players, I don't know if you have this kind of players, they want to go to the weight room. They like to go there to do a routine, a basic routine, nothing special, nothing so hard. And I have different players, and you have to work with every player in a different way, because some players prefer to, like I said, prefer to go to the day before to the game and make some hard work with high weights, lower reps, and to be prepared from the game. Even in the game, for example, tomorrow morning I'm going to do with some players this, but other guys prefer to do just the 3 sessions during the week, and after this rest and be prepared for the next week.
Excellent. When it comes to planning of several weeks, now we know how you design your microcycle. Do you have any mesocycle, so like 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks periodization, or you leave it like
week by week?
Week by
week. With Cito we have these kind of methods, and I have learned that is the best way, because you can do a mesocycle, and after this you have like injured player, you can get a bad way of the team that we have 3 losses in a row, and then you have the programmation of everything, and you have to say, okay, we have to change this. So we prefer to make week by week. It's easier. Even the strength session, I try to make day by day. Depends of the week, depends of the practice that we have done with the coach, depends of the fatigue that they suffer. It's important to get the control, I think, in a small period of time, and don't put like a long period to get the periodization, and after that you have to change everything. I prefer to be week by week and control this week as better as you can.
Excellent, perfect. Respect, like nothing to say. Let's move to another topic that we mentioned at the very beginning of this interview, because we spoke about Catapult and support of university guys. How important load monitoring is for you, for your team, now when you have great communication with the coach and he respects your opinion on training periodization. How do you organize your workload monitoring and management, and what are your key principles when it comes to this type of responsibility?
I'm gonna explain with an example of the day. When I arrived to the gym, the players came 1 hour before the practice. When they arrive, I go one by one to asking, how do you feel today? How are your feelings? Do you feel good? Do you have any problem? I give the best to put the accelerometer, catapult, and I turn on. During the practice, I am putting in a control paper the hour of each exercise. At the end of the session, I take the dispositive and I ask the RPA to the players. I'm going to cut the session, and we have created like a methodological to cut the session, and we cut by exercise, because Cito, for example, like to know how's the load of one, for example, 3-on-3 in the half court. Okay, that's the player load per minute of this kind of exercise, and we create like an Excel tool to put okay, we're going to do 5-on-5 half court during 15 minutes, for example, and you put 15 minutes and you have the estimated load that could be at the end of the session. And I like to put like this. After this, we have like individual control of this of each player, and I try to compare always with the RPA, because sometimes it's similar, but could happen that something is like a little bit strange when you compare. Even with some players, you have the player load of one guy, and when you watch the other, the RPA, you said something here is strange. What happened with this? And I want to go and say, hey, what's happening in this practice? You told me 8, and the rest of the player told me like 5. What's wrong? And we try to take this kind of control. To cut the session at the beginning, when we start with Catapult, we cut by activity, just the activity each player. Was crazy, because you have to put one player activity, no activity, activity, no activity, and it's a little bit crazy. And with this system, I like to cut the session like this. It's interesting even from the coach, and the information is from the coach, it's not for us. I would like maybe in periods or in a small part of times, but I think it's important to give the information to the coach, who is really important and that he's going to use.
Excellent. I really like it. I think you explained pretty well how the system works, like a daily work, and then basically you know how much more or less load or player load in this case, because you use catapult, you want to do in one day, and you tell Sito, hey, today we go more or less 400 player load, and then he can combine different exercises by knowing player load per minute, and more or less he knows the time.
More or less, but sometimes it's more like you sit with the coach and he said, okay, that's the exercises I want to do today. Let's put some time, let's see how many often we need to rest, where you prefer to put the main part, and to do like the harder exercises in the first part of the practice, or maybe in the second one, because maybe some players can make those kind of exercises. Like if you are going to do a fast break like crazy, you have any players with some problem or whatever, or like for example older players, I don't like that they made like a sprint in a row. I prefer that they made another kind of exercises. So you sit with him and you try to control this, the time, to control the order, but it's more this kind of situation. It's not to say, okay, you have this load and you have to manage this. No, you have to put there and see, okay, if you put these 15 minutes, you are going to increase the load. So, okay, and you have to negotiate. It's everything to negotiate with the coach, with the players.
Excellent. I mean, I remember when I was working with Sito, very often during the practice we would meet up and he would ask me, hey, can I do 5 minutes more? Or should I cut next exercise? So these are like the...
I love this. When he come back and say, hey, can I make right now 5 on 5, just 10 minutes more? Okay. You feel the power.
Yeah, I mean, because that's what drives us. You know, you like the responsibility, and when someone respects you and together you make a good decision, you know, you stand behind it, and then you can really enjoy your work. I spoke a couple of interviews ago that basically the worst thing that can happen to you as a strength and conditioning coach is that the club hires an old school coach who doesn't have any respect for you, and he doesn't have to talk with you in a bad way, tell you that you suck, because that won't happen.
Yeah.
But when he cuts your responsibilities, and then you end up being a guy who is just like warming up the team and supporting the team, and then he does a little bit of like preventive work and strength in the weightlifting room, you know, you start becoming sad because the responsibilities that you had, someone
it's horrible because you feel like you are invisible to the coach, and you feel like, come on, what I am doing here, and just come in, do the warm up, and after this I see towards the practice. Okay, let's go, come on guys. After this you try to help with the recovery or whatever with the players, go home and you say, man, I don't talk any word with the coach today. And maybe you want to say, hey coach, we need to make this, or we can do this, I think this could be better. And when you are like invisible, man, it's hard. When you suffer this, you say, man, this is horrible.
Yeah, that's probably the worst part if it comes, and hopefully the European mentality of head coaches will improve. And
yeah, even with the old coach, I think all the school coaches are changing this, because right now they are watching that the athletic skills of the players are very important, and when they feel by himself, I think they learn. Sometimes like, okay, because I don't want to name one coach, but I remember he was very focused on the strength part, and he always told me, okay, you got to make like old school, everybody by time, okay, let's go, squat, ready, boom, and everybody do the squat. Okay guys, right now bench press, and everybody is doing the bench press. And when you explain, okay, I have different players, and the center can do the same that the point guard, you know, it's like different, and I have one guy who is 36 year old, and I have in the same position another guy who is 20 years and he is not playing. I can do the same, and step by step you help to change this. But it was horrible when a coach told you no, but why you don't work on this way on the weight room? I said, what are you talking about? Yeah, circuit by time, let's go, time to start, time to stop, we switch, come on, abs. And you say no, come on.
Yeah, to finish practice 500 abs.
Yeah, like this, and it's okay. Let's do some abs with the guys, and you say no, come on. And when you do like functional movements like a plank or whatever, what is that? This is not abs. No, come on. But it's funny too, because you learn
a lot. The most important thing is, as I said before, that
even by yourself, because you learn how to make an internal strength to keep, because sometimes you want to surrender and say, okay, I follow this guy and I made whatever he want and it's okay, he's going to be happy with me. But when you feel like no, come on, I have to keep with my ideas, I have to follow, and when he told you everything, like you said, like, hey, come on man, you suck, no, come on, and I think you improve, like definitely. Your mentality said, I feel good, I feel strong now.
Makes sense. Last topic in the main part, short about recovery. I want to ask you about supplements that you use with your team. I know that very often supplements, what we want to buy and what we want to get depends on the budget of the team. So you can mention like the most important things that you are using with your players, something that maybe you would like to try but you haven't tried so far. So
the first part that we use with the players is the ice bath. Ice bath for me is very very important after the games, after the practice, and we use sometimes. And with the supplements, for example, it's difficult because we have, like I said, different players right now in this moment. For example, I think it's not just in my team. With the other teams, each player want to improve by himself, and they have his own nutritionist, his own strength and conditioning coach, who is from his confidence, and we try to control this, but it's very difficult because before the game some players want to take creatine and BCAAs, other guys don't want to take anything, and after the game they take like protein or some recovery, special recovery that they have, and it's a little bit crazy. I create an Excel, a paper, to put this and to talk with the some nutritionists of the guys, and said, okay, before the game, what he need, this and this, we have no problems because we have an sponsor with Amix, and we have no problem with this. The problem is me, because I have to put everything with the players, I have to help them, and it's a little bit crazy, but in 90% of the case we use protein, creatine, some BCAAs, and that's all. Some guys are taking like tart cherry after the game because they want to take this. Other guys don't take nothing and they prefer to go home and take like a real food. It's very complicated right now, even with the diet, because we try to control sometimes the diet of the players. I don't know in your case, but when you travel with the guys, I have like 5 different options. I can take gluten, I don't want to eat this kind of meat, I want to take this kind of vegetables, I want to, and it's crazy because you have to create a menu for all the team with a specific indication. It's very difficult, even with the supplements. Some guys get like 1,000 pills. You get, come on, man, you take all the pills. Yeah, this on the morning, after the practice, before the practice, and that's crazy. And other guys don't take anything. They don't want to take anything. Just finish the practice, go home, take a good food, and that's all. But right now, is in my team, it's changing.
What about caffeine?
Yeah, caffeine before the game, always.
Beta-alanine?
Some players.
Curcumin and something from
Curcumin, they are taking 2 guys right now. Because
Omega-3?
With the food, they don't want to take enough pills. They don't like, and they prefer, for example, in the travel, to take some fish or whatever who contain these kind of vitamins, and they don't want to take like supplements of this. Even with curcuma, they prefer to cook with this and don't take like a supplement. Yeah, it's okay. It's nice.
You can explain them, offer them.
It's nice.
The best thing is like when you want to implement something, to have like 2 options how to get it.
Yeah.
Because there is always a food which is rich in that supplement. Okay, and then we can offer that. But educate players, or give them.
It's important to educate, I think, because sometimes we are focused on the supplements. Okay, they need to take these kind of things, and maybe when they arrive home, they eat some bullshit, and you say, "Come on, man, I don't take care of you in the supplements, in the recovery things," and you go home and you take some pizza or you take whatever. I prefer to explain and to put the example of some players who change these habits, the food habits, and they improve in his career. For example, Facu for me is one of the best examples. You work with Prigioni, you know,
Yes.
as a coach, and they have control of the food in the national team, and it's crazy. From them is something essential from the team. And I like these kind of things. And you can say, okay, look, this guy, for example, Scola, he's a crazy guy with the food. He's playing in the first level with 4 years. It's because of this, no? Maybe that can help him to arrive on this level. It's important, but in my opinion, it's changing. It's changing in a good way. In a good way.
Excellent. Oh man, I can talk to you for days, but we have to limit this, respecting the guys who are watching.
Maybe they are bored.
Maybe they are bored. They can always click stop or just put next song. Guys, we came to the end of the second part. We are going to take a short break as always, and we are coming back soon for the last part of this interview with Manu from UCAM Murcia. Hello guys, welcome back to episode with Manu. Now the last part, pretty quick, with some simple questions. Something that I asked previously several guests, and I want to ask you because in basketball we work with super tall guys. Do you have some certain adjustments when it comes to any topic, like not only strength training, but maybe even when it comes to basketball practice, traveling, whatever? Just throw us some ideas about super tall players and your work.
We try to get some control of these kind of players because they maybe suffer more than the other players during the practice, even during the travels. In our case, for example, just an easy example is to fly. When we have to fly, sometimes we cannot get the exit emergency seats, and it's horrible because imagine one guy who is 2 meters 11 centimeters tall and he's like this on the seat, and we try to control simple things. For example, the balance for me it's very important in this kind of guys. We try to control even the difference that can suffer, for example, in the strength, in the legs, or the problems that they have on the mobility. Sometimes you know that these kind of players, they have different mobility skills. For example, the players who have big legs and small upper body, and opposite. And I try to control this and to improve and adjustment these kind of things. During the practice, it's true that we try to get control, because we play in a way that they jump more than the rest of the player, and they run not more, but they have like more high sprints than the other guys, and we try to take care of these kind of things, because sometimes they have like overload in the knees, in different joints. A low back, for example, is something that they suffer a lot of, because when you are fight all the game, or you are suffering the other guy who is pushing you, and I try to get a little bit control of these kind of things. The physiotherapist, for example, he helped me a lot with these kind of things, to make some exercises, to help with the mobility, to help with the stretch and everything with them.
I like how you mentioned the relationship with physiotherapists and how you share your thoughts, and probably he will also come to you with his thoughts. Maybe one day he will come to you and say, hey, before practice, try to do a little bit more of mobility exercises for his hips and so on, to put less stress on the low back. And so
even he with me get this relationship to arrive and say, okay, this guy, I try to mobilize the hip, okay, now try to activate the glute before the practice, before the warm-up, and we are in connection. It's important, this in our job, for example, we have to be connected with him. I think even more with that we are connected with the coach, because you have to work very, very, very close with the physiotherapist.
Excellent. Next question is about the game, something that I asked also a couple of guys before, but I think it's a really interesting question. To be honest, I was provoked by one South American strength and conditioning coach, Christian is his name, and he wrote a really nice article in Spanish. I can send you, since you know Spanish. He wrote an article about this topic. What is the thing that strength and conditioning coaches are looking at during games? And he published it at one conference a couple of months ago, and I found this article super interesting, and I was kind of provoked to implement this question in the interviews, because I find it very fun, because we all do the same or very similar work, because we have very similar responsibilities, but when it comes to the real game, you know, with our own two eyes, we are looking maybe in different things. You know, of course, some of the strength and conditioning coaches have more or less responsibilities during the game, because they can have direct communication with head coach, or direct communication with assistants, or with none of them, but maybe with physios and doctors and so on. So I wanted to ask you, what do you look at during the games? What is your main focus?
During the game, from the next year, I think, or 2 years ago, I start to get a map of the minutes of each player. And during the game, I try to keep a control of the minutes that they are playing a row, and even with the players who are not playing, and you think that they can go to the core in some moments. And I try to control this and give some information to the assistant coach, like you said, because, you know, during the game, the coach is just focused on the game, he's thinking in his thing, and you can talk with him. So I try to get some details that I think it's important from the team, even from the players. And I try to be in communication with the assistant coach, even with the players. If I think that some players are too many time in the bench, we try to get some bands or bicycle or whatever to activate a little bit, because sometimes in some moments the coach put just to defend one play, and if you come back cold and you are not ready, you are useless to the coach. So I try to keep control of this. It's something that in my first year I were a little bit loose, because I said, okay, I am like a fan, I am watching the game, I am support, but I am doing nothing. I'm just there and to help in the thing that they told me, okay, can you help with the supplements? Yeah, can you? And I were a little bit like, like loose there. And from the last 2 years, we try to take control of this, to see how many minutes they are playing in a row, how many minutes they are not playing. If you see that some players just by feelings, that you feel, okay, this guy is maybe tired, if the coach give just a short rest and come back to the core, can help him. And I try to help with this. It's just small details, maybe you can help or not, but you give some information. Sometimes the coach received this information and said, okay, I'm agree, or sometimes he said no,
which is okay.
It's important and he need to play, okay, and maybe he's playing 12 minutes in a row and you think, okay, just give me one time out to rest. But I don't know if we can do more during the game. It's one of the things that if we could use this kind of things like catapult or whatever in life, we can get control of this. But right now we just get the control of the small things that we can.
Perfect. One personal question. How much time do you devote for your own workouts, and how often do you train for yourself?
For myself?
Yes.
I try to work 3 times a week. At least I try. Sometimes I go to running or whatever to clean my mind a little bit, but I like to go 3 hard days a week and try to put more weight than the stronger guy in my team, and to to compare with them.
Excellent. I like it to keep that mentality and approach.
Competition, always competition.
Yes, and I think it's like very American type of approach, because a lot of Spanish strength and conditioning coaches are not like into lifting weights hard. They're like skinny guys, more like
sometimes for example, with some players, they are in shock, because when you explain, okay, you have to make this a deadlift and you put like 100 kilos and you make 3 reps with no problems, just to show them how to do, they say, man, this guy, he looks stronger. And when you make something, and I think it's good even to teach, because when you have the feelings in yourself, for example in Olympic lifts, if you have never made a clean, you can say teach to the players how's the feeling that you are doing, how is the triple extension. If you don't feel, you cannot say, okay, you have to make a little jump and open your legs and feel how you stop the bar. You never get that feeling on you. It's like when you are playing basketball and you never shoot and you go there, you have to put the hand like, come on man, you never shoot and you are saying to me how to shoot. I prefer to get that feeling on myself.
Excellent. I like the point. How does your summer look like?
I think it's going to be a crazy summer. In the last 2 years, I have been working with Rudy Fernandez, and for me it was very special, very nice. Even in the last summer, because he was in the World Championship, he played very good, and I want to think like 0.5% of this was because of me. And I don't know yet, because sometimes you programmate everything to be on holidays, to rest, to travel. I love to travel. And then one or two players call you and say, okay, Manu, I want to work this summer. Are you able to work with me? Do you want to come and work, I don't know, in my city or whatever? And I don't know. When I am close to the summer, I try to organize everything. But right now, I don't know. We have the Olympic Games. I don't know if Rudy is watching me. Call me. But I don't know yet. But it's crazy, like always. In the last summer, just doing individual workouts with some players, different players. And I like that. When some guys who you get on the team call you and say, okay, can I go with you and do something on the summer? For me, it's a satisfaction, because you said, okay, I'm doing not an excellent work, but I am doing good because they keep calling me and they keep thinking that I'm a good part of the players. So I don't know yet.
I have huge respect for that, because after a long season in Spain, when everyone needs rest, you're still hustling, and you're still working your ass off, even when you stay here in Murcia and it's like 45 degrees, or you travel somewhere else to work. You have to be really in love with this job to do it. I work like last 3-4 years for me are pretty easy, because for the first time in my last 10-12 years, I have some time to really enjoy holidays, because it was always like national team, and then some camps and national team and camps, and I had never time to enjoy July, for example. And now I can do it, because I'm like in contact with players through WhatsApp, or like daily conversation calls. I send programs, but I don't have to really like work during July. And then I was not thinking about last 2 years. I was not thinking about being hired by some guys. I had a couple of offers, nothing special, but I was not thinking about anything. Like, it doesn't matter how much money they put on the table. For me, it was like, I need some time to rest, like to switch off. I also had huge respect for the club, because I re-signed, so I didn't want to be hired by the guys who are not enrolled in the program. That's another perspective, because my contract then goes not like for season 10 months, but it goes for 12 months. So from that perspective, I also didn't want to get into this business. Even like I would ask the owner of the club and our sport director. I would ask, of course, but I didn't even want to ask. I wanted to focus on the guys that we had on the squad, prepare good programs, and have some time for myself. But I have huge respect for the guys who work with the teams during the whole year, and then in the summer they continue to work. That's hell of a job. Like, you really have to be mentally.
What do you feel the first week that you have off on the summer? Because for me it's something I don't know how to explain, because you have your routine, you have to be always in alert on your phone, to send something to the coach, to be ready for everything. And when I start my holidays, just 1 week, I don't know, I feel like strange, I wake up and I said, now what happened now? Yeah, what happened now? I don't have to go to the court. I don't have trouble. What's going on?
It's strange. Yeah, it's definitely weird when you have like the first week of your holidays.
For me, it's like I feel, like an alien coming to the earth. What am I doing here? What am I doing here? Yeah.
Okay, excellent. To finish the interview, as you know, I'm gonna ask you some quick questions. You don't know the questions, but I know them. So take your time to answer it. The most professional player that you have ever worked with?
Facundo Campazo.
Facu. Okay, excellent. If you had to choose one exercise, one strength exercise for basketball players, what would it be?
Just one. Single step up with a dumbbell press, I think.
Excellent. Well, I like it. I like it.
Four things in common.
Maybe. When it comes to load monitoring, just so you understand well the question, because to see the point, when it comes to load monitoring, we can focus more like on objective parameters that we follow to monitor players' current state or fatigue or level of recovery. So I want you to answer me. Would you rather trust blood parameters or subjective questionnaire such as wellness? If you had to choose one type of feedback,
for sure.
Subjective.
Yeah.
Excellent. That's one thing that we have in common. So see, I told you, maybe we reach 5 things in common until the end. Recovery method number 1.
Sleep.
We have 5 things in common. Excellent. Perfect. A favorite sport beside basketball?
Handball.
Handball. Excellent. You seem like a Croatian guy.
Thank you.
When it comes to El Clásico football, Barça or Madrid?
I don't know. Next question.
Okay, I know that. Like, maybe answering this question is not the smartest thing. So I knew that you might not answer this one. Perfect. Paella or chuletón?
Chuletón.
We have 6 things in common. Excellent. Beer or wine?
Beer.
Beer.
Always.
I don't know what is mine. Beer or wine? It depends on the situation.
Yeah. Always.
Excellent. Man, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thanks.
For me, it was great pleasure. I think we shared with the guys quite many interesting things. I think the guys understood pretty well your strength methodology. They know what is important for you when it comes to load monitoring. I think we explained also well what is your philosophy in strength and conditioning, and I think you gave really good examples now with your current situation with Cito. I know that you work well and the communication is definitely good. I said, like, with Cito, I had one of the best communications when it comes to relationship between strength and conditioning coach and head coach, and I'm really happy for you. And from one perspective, I want Cito to stay here because you can enjoy your work and really look for your full potential because he will use it. But on the other hand, I also want that you make good success with your team so Cito can go somewhere else when it comes to Euro Cup or back to EuroLeague team. I really believe that he deserves it and he belongs to EuroLeague basketball. We also mentioned some recovery strategies, especially supplements. I like how you mentioned the ice bath. I think it's very important, and for all of the clubs who can somehow organize it or buy some kind of pools. Sometimes it's not very cheap option, so definitely it's an investment, but you can do it by yourself. If you have to organize it with your pools and you have to order ice, maybe you will not do it as often as you would like to, but definitely recovery method to consider. I think, as I said, that we talked about many different topics. I think you shared with us very valuable information and I really appreciate it. Guys, we came to very end of this episode. I hope that you enjoyed the episode with Manu, because I believe that he shared with us plenty of his knowledge, plenty of his practical experience. I hope that you will be able to implement some of the things that he said in your work, and stay focused and pay attention to his practical suggestions and how he said many things. For example, for me, one important thing that he said was that first he wants to bond with each player, and then he wants to discuss exercises and some typical stuff in the weightlifting room, because he knows that basically first when you bond with a player, then you can get full feedback that you desire from your players. Stay updated, please, on the channel about next episode. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do, so you can stay updated. And if you like this episode, don't forget to share it. I see you soon. Bye bye.
Thank you.